What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another War Within video. Hope you're all doing very well. I want to show the Farseer build with Echoes of the Great Sundering. This is a talent that I have really not enjoyed a lot. I've been a pretty big proponent of saying that I hate this talent, and because it completely warps the way that you play the game. It makes everything go a lot slower in terms of the way that you're kind of spending your resources, and I'll show you what that means right now. Yo, guys, the gnome would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe on the video. All right, thanks, bye. If you don't have Echoes of the Great Sundering, you can spam Earthquakes, right? And it works out really, really well. If you have Lightning Rod, then you're adding a bunch of Lightning Rods. If you have Echoes of the Great Sundering, you have to alternate between Elemental Blast and Earthquake. And so that requires extra time of you building up your Maelstrom to get your next LE Blast. Sorry, I keep saying that's my apologies. There's an LE Blast right there, and then we're gonna do some chain lightnings, then we get an Earthquake, and that's great, and then we get a chain lightning again, and then we got an Earthquake that we can cast, but we can't cast it. We got to get to our LE Blast, and then we can do an Earthquake. And obviously, if you get an Aftershock proc and get a reset, then things are really, really great. Of course, that's awesome the way that it works, but what it does, this is very interesting. It very much slows down the way in which you're using your spenders. It doesn't, you can't spam your spenders, like Earthquake in particular, in AoE, so it's very interesting. That being said, it adds such a significant amount of damage to your Earthquake that I don't really think it can be ignored anymore. This is the talent tree that I was going with. I dropped Echo of the Elementals to pick up Echoes of the Great Sundering. So we would traded one Echo for another, and I'm going to show you what this is like in dungeon footage, and I'll link the talent tree down below at the end, so don't worry about that. This is a plus 12 Dark Flame Cleft. I just tried it like this. I have a comparison chart at the end as well. We're going to compare with Echoes versus without Echoes, so don't stick around for the end for that. I didn't know what this tank was doing. He ended up pulling back to this corner, which is absolutely fine. We're going to Stormkeeper. We're going to get our Ellie going, get some Flame Shocks out, then do Primordial Wave with our Ascendants, and then I go Ellie Blast into Earthquake. Then I go Ellie Blast, and I got an Aftershock proc right there, which is really good. Do some Chain Lightnings. Our damage is fine. If this pull was longer than it sort of like looked at first glance, right? So anyway, it doesn't matter. But anyway, we are doing the alternating thing, and it is good. And if you get an Aftershock proc, it's like so much better with Echoes of the Great Sundering than if you get an Aftershock proc and you don't have this talent. Does that make sense? There's our damage on the first pack right there. Earthquake is doing an enormous amount of our damage, and I'm gonna keep saying this over and over again, but the Aftershock sort of synergy and value that you get is pretty ridiculous. I will say that. It definitely makes that talent so much more worth it, which is really cool. I think that's an important distinction to make, because getting a proc on a proc on a proc on your Earthquakes is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's really, really great. But it just doesn't have the same kind of oomph, because when you're putting down, when you get a proc on an LE Blast, you can immediately Earthquake, and it's doing 140% more damage, right? It's doing more than twice the damage. It's doing almost 2.5 times the damage. That's what 140% more damage means. It's basically 2.4x damage, and it makes your Earthquakes just go crazy. We're doing basically 7 million right here. We get to the first boss. The first boss is it despawned on us for some stupid reason. Anyway, here's the first boss. We don't have Lust, but that's okay. A lot of this boss is padding onto the ads. It's not to say that these ads don't need to die, because they will slowly kill one of your allies. Whoever gets fixated will absolutely die to the ads. So they need to die for sure. But you do get a lot of Earthquake sort of padding value here, and you'll watch. My damage is going to go up here once I get Ascendance. We'll do an LE Blast into an Earthquake. We got to reset right away. There's an Earthquake for us. Now we're at the top of the meters. And delayed there, but this thing actually pumps an enormous amount of damage. And with the Ancestors, it's pretty cool, because the Farseer tree actually generates an enormous amount of Maelstrom. Not like double the amount of Maelstrom that the Stormbringer tree generates, but this Farseer tree generates more Maelstrom, and you have more maximum Maelstrom. So you can like bank up a lot of Maelstrom if you want to, and then do like LE Blast immediately into an Earthquake without even having to get a lucky Aftershock proc. get to the end of this fight here. We're at about 4.5 million. I think the hunter just got above us there. So you can see right now, I have banked up 148 Maelstrom already, which is awesome. So by the time I start this fight, I'm at 137 Maelstrom. I'm ready to go. I can go LE Blast here right into an Earthquake, and I immediately have massive damage, big Echoes of the Great Sundering value, and it ends up equaling out to a lot of damage here. We're doing 6 million already. So with the Farseer tree in particular, compared to the Stormbringer tree, just doing a little comparison there, I think this whole Maelstrom angle is pretty cool. That you have more max Maelstrom, you generate a crazy amount of Maelstrom. Your Primordial Wave and your Liquid Magma Totem both generate Maelstrom now, like a lot of extra Maelstrom, 8 and 12. And then obviously all your extra abilities that you're getting, you get the free ability every 30 seconds. That free instant cast from Ancestral Swiftness is really nice. You can use it on Elemental Blast, and I would say that you should always use it on Elemental Blast if possible, if you have enough Maelstrom to do so. But yeah, it's just really great. That synergy is pretty cool, and I was just noticing it as I was going through here. You do spend a lot more time pressing non-spenders when you're doing Echoes of the Great Sundering, because again, you have to wait to get the Maelstrom, enough Maelstrom to press Elemental Blast, and then you have to get enough Maelstrom up to press Earthquake. That takes a long time. In between that time, you're able to cast a lot of Chain Lightnings. So I think you get a lot more Chain Lightning damage here, which is pretty cool, compared to if you did not have Echoes of the Great Sundering. I think that's actually a pretty massive difference, and should be noted there. Let's skip to a pure single target boss. I want to show you, we've seen some AoE. It's like 4 to 6 million to 7 million basically on depending on the pack. We're going to skip ahead to, this is a boss fight where you have to be moving quite a bit.
That was actually really good.
Which is fine. Not bad to see it here, 2 million, but then let's see it. We actually save our Bloodlust, I think, for the next boss, which is pretty good. So we're good. We ran into this pack for some reason. Okay, here comes this boss fight. So I don't have Ascendance up right away, but I think I get a proc pretty early on with my Elemental Blast, and I'm getting resets in Elemental Blast right now, which is amazing. In single target, you do not use your Earthquakes. You just go Elemental Blast back to back to back. So that's a bit of an issue, in my opinion, because you completely lose the value of that talent. Like, that talent is 100% worthless. You're actually just down 1 talent on single target encounters because you're not using Earthquake, you're only using Elemental Blast, which is, again, it's just the nature of the talent. It's fine. It makes up for it in AoE. It's totally fine because it makes up for it in AoE. If I had the other talent, the Echo of the Elemental talent, that gets value whether I'm in single target or in AoE. So that's an argument there that could be made, right? But I think you'll see by the end of the video the actual damage that Earthquake is doing with Echoes of the Great Sundering versus without is pretty crazy. So here's our single target damage. We'll get to the end of this. 2.3 mil, 2.5 mil, 2.4 mil. Maybe that's where we're going to settle. 2.3 mil by the end. Pretty good. P2.2. Then we have the Gauntlet. And there's nothing really crazy to show you here. So I'm just going to show you the... I just wanted to give you a glimpse of kind of what it was able to do there. Here's my little picture here. So this is my build that I ran. Farseer build without Echoes of the Great Sundering. And you can see that our Earthquake did about 7% of our damage. With Echoes of the Great Sundering, it does 15.5% of our damage. So it does more than double. But let's take into account the fact that without Echoes of the Great Sundering, I was getting the lesser Primal Storm Elemental. That's what Echoes of the Elementals does. It gives you this lesser Primal Storm Ele. He did 3.2%. So let's subtract well, let's just add 3.2% to our Earthquake here. We're going to call it 10.2%. So essentially, without Echoes of the Great Sundering, we had 10.2% extra damage. With Echoes of the Great Sundering, we have 15.5% extra damage, right? You have Earthquake, and we don't have the Elemental over here. Over here, we have Earthquake plus the Elemental. It's still less. That lesser Primal Storm Elemental is not doing enough to actually make up for the gap. The gap's pretty big. It's 5.3%, basically, more damage that you're going to be doing with Echoes of the Great Sundering. So, as much as I kind of hate this talent and the way that it forces you into a slightly slower gameplay loop, I do think it has a lot of value here, and it's better on the whole when it comes to your damage. The only exception to this could be like maybe Theater of Pain, because you don't get a ton of like Earthquake targets, but even then, there's still some packs that are pretty big, and you're going to get some huge earthquakes. It's going to be super juicy, which is nice. The other good thing, again, like I talked about before, the synergies with some of the talents are quite good. Having a 30-second Ancestral Swiftness to immediately cast Elemental Blast, and then if you get an Aftershock, you can immediately go into an Earthquake. That combo is really, really nice, and it just feels good. There's an argument to be made for taking Earthshock, but then that reduces the value of your Echoes of the Great Sundering, and I really don't think that that's worth it. So you pretty much want to stick to Ele Blast, especially because every 30 seconds you can make it instant, as I was saying there. And then again, all the Maelstrom stuff, right? We've got extra damage to our spenders, actually, right here. 15% more damage to Earthquake and Elemental Blast. Then we have 25 to max Maelstrom, which is awesome. And then again, we have Primordial Wave and Liquid Magma Totem that are generating extra Maelstrom for us, and we have the haste buff from Splintered Elements. So there's a lot of really cool little extra things when you combine Farseer with Echoes of the Great Sundering, and I think it's actually a pretty good pairing. And this is the talent tree that I'm currently running on my Elemental Shaman. Again, do I think this build is better than the Stormbringer build? Sorry. I don't think it is. If pound for pound, I think the Stormbringer build is a little bit better, but I find this 10 times more enjoyable. I really enjoy this build. It's a lot of fun to play, and just way more engaging of a play style than the Stormbringer tree actually is. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I do think that it matters that Echoes is doing this much more damage. The Earthquake damage is really high, and it's actually more than if you combine Earthquake and Lesser Primal Elemental together. So I think it's probably the way to go. If you're not used to playing with Echoes of the Great Sundering, you might have to just get into the swing of it. Do some practice on the dummies of Ele Blast into Earthquake, Ele Blast, Earthquake. Maybe get something to track your Echoes of the Great Sundering buff so that you know that you have it up. If you just use the base UI frames, I got it here. If it's personal resource display. So if you type in personal up in the top here in the options menu, your personal resource display will show you when you have an Echoes of the Great Sundering buff. And I'll just show you that really, really quickly here. So again, if we just, I'm going to press my Elemental Blast. Whoops, I messed it up. So there, you can see now there's this icon right there, that Earthquake icon. You can see I have Echoes of the Great Sundering. So if you have the personal resource display selected, you can see when you have an Echoes of the Great Sundering ready. If you want something bigger, you can probably make a weak aura for it, and it would be perfectly fine. But just know the personal resource display will do it for you. It'll tell you whenever that's there. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Would love to hear from any of you guys who are trying Farseer. I think it's really fun, and I'm having a blast with it, and I'm kind of enjoying this new edition. It does a lot more damage with Echoes of the Great Sundering. So let me know what you think in those comments down below. Thank you so much again for watching. I love y'all. I'll see you in the next one.